Hey everyone, it's Harry to talk about a big breakthrough in Fulton County, a guilty plea from one of the 19 defendants. This guy is Scott Hall. He's a little bit of an odd man out. He's described as a bail bondsman from Atlanta, yet he's integrally involved in a sort of freestanding episode in the Fulton County indictment, the one that takes place in Coffee County, which is 200 miles south of Atlanta. It's a rural stronghold that went 70% for Trump. But with their focus on Georgia, Sidney Powell in particular started to look to Coffee County as a place that they could go to try to confirm, or for all we know, drum up evidence that there had been systematic undercounting of votes in Georgia on, remember these guys, Dominion Software, which has since sued Fox and I believe Powell as well. All right, so back to Hall. He's kind of like an intermeddler at this point. He's got one of his relatives is a big Republican type, but you know, that's an official job description in Trump world in December 2020. Basically, that's who Jeff Clark is. He's just a functionary in DOJ who kind of steps forward and volunteers to help Trump. Arguably, that's who Ken Chesbro is. That's what's happening. These Sidney Powell herself. These are the people who have Trump's ear just because they're saying things he wants to hear. So Scott Hall knows a thing or two, it would appear, about hacking, and he conspires under the indictment, with three other people. One is the head of the Republican Party in Coffee County. One is the elections chief for Coffee County, and the other is Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell pays a firm from Atlanta some $26,000 to do a couple things, but one of them is to hack into these machines that are down in Coffee County, the Dominion machines. So they get together on January 7th, the day after the marauders have staked out the Capitol, and they go down there, and basically the two Republican officials there schmooze the people who are in the election office, either fool them, hoodwink them into thinking that they can let them have access to the machines, which is strictly illegal, or maybe, conspire with them and just get them to do it as good soldiers of Trump. Anyway, they do that, and Scott Hall goes down to Coffee County, and they spend hours there. They image basically everything and all the machines in order to try to get some kind of proof of undercounting by Trump. All strictly illegal and all, part of the overall RICO count. And separately, it's a couple violations of Georgia election law. Okay, so that's where things stood. And now Scott Hall pleads guilty. First, that's a big deal. But by comparison, Fani Willis is well known for her previous RICO case involving educators in Atlanta who were cheating on benchmarks and the like. That one started out with 35 defendants. By the time of trial, it was 12. And after the first one pleaded guilty, several others followed in quick succession. So you have to imagine that in particular, that the election officials in Coffee County are thinking long and hard. Now, Hall got as his sentence for pleading 5 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, a $5,000 fine, and very importantly, a promise to testify truthfully in any trial. And in fact, they've already taken a videotape, so they have all his information kind of signed, sealed, and delivered. That means that the others involved in that incident have to be really afraid that he will tell the truth about them. They'll be convicted and they're going to do jail time. right now, he's not doing jail time. It's not even clear that subsequent people could get such a sweet deal of no jail time, but especially when we're talking about the jail in Fulton County, that's a big difference. And prosecutors are very, they motivate people or scare the pants off them by saying, for first deals, early deals. Come to me now and you'll have a better deal than if you try to come later after others have already knocked on our door and given us the evidence we need to convict you, and we don't need it anymore. So you may well see the two election officials thinking long and hard and maybe entering pleas as well. Now that leaves Sidney Powell. She's something of a separate actor. She pays for them, from back in Washington. Still, you have to imagine that Scott Hall has some very strong evidence against her. And check this out. Jeff Clark, who I was just talking about, the guy at DOJ who wants to write the letter on behalf of DOJ, the complete sheet of lies saying we found suspicious stuff in Georgia. He and Scott Hall have an hour-plus long telephone conversation on January 2nd. What the hell happened there? I'm sure that the Clark is going over it, by every single detail he can remember, because that now is something that a jury will hear, the prosecutors will hear, and the like. In very rough strokes, this 19-person indictment has the sort of Trump and his immediate minions like Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Jenna Ellis, etc., a few of whom go down to Georgia. Then it has the people in Georgia who kind of help the false electors assert falsely that they're Trump electors. It has the Trump electors themselves, and then it has this Coffee County sort of cohort of 4. So how much of an inroad does Scott Hall bring? We'll really be seeing it, but it's quite possible that others will now follow suit. Even if you're not someone who you think Scott Hall can inculpate, you may be sort of looking down the road. This is just complete speculation. I'm not asserting it, but if you're, thinking of your own self-interest and you think that Scott Hall could inculpate Sidney Powell and she will be scared and turn state's evidence, and let's say you are Jenna Ellis or Rudy Giuliani, now you're really worried that Powell can inculpate you, and again, earlier deal, better deal, maybe you better, go and cut a deal now, especially because they in particular, but a lot of people don't have the money. One of the things about these 4-month trials is they're going to cost a fortune, and it's not clear that anybody other than Trump can pay for it. All right, so Scott Hall, he's just one kind of isolated actor, and yet he may be not the first of 19 dominoes, but of a few, and those subsequent dominoes may then prompt others. So we're at a stage that prosecutors like, where the defendants are looking at one another and they're biting their nails and figuring out what to do. In the meantime, of course, Sidney Powell and Ken Chesebro's trial, jury selection is due to begin in less than 3 weeks. So especially for Powell, it's now, it's getting to be now or never. And she knows Scott Hall will be one of the witnesses against her at the trial. So it is really getting down to the end of the wick, as it were, and they've got to figure out just what to do. So we've waited for a bit. Scott Hall goes first, and who knows what could happen from there. You can be sure that at least half the defendants are huddled with their lawyers thinking about it very, very, very carefully. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.